So I'm going to explain to the best of my ability my first close encounter experience with the triangle UFO, which led to me getting severely unwell, um, and led to my diagnosis, which I mentioned in another video. So this is about my first close encounter. It was midsummer. The year was 1997, the year the Hale-Bopp comet was visible in the sky. I was walking home from my friend's house around 11:30 p.m. I was pretty tired and was daydreaming as I was walking. As I turned around the corner of the street to get onto the street where I was living, it was like someone had clicked their fingers and snapped me out of my daydream. I was extra aware of my surroundings, like a heightened awareness had taken over me. Perplexed as to how or why this shift in awareness had suddenly come about, I looked around my surroundings as to see if anyone was stood around me, but there wasn't anyone. So, still perplexed by why I was now wide awake and aware of my surroundings acutely, I continued to walk home. Then I started to hear a strange vibrating noise come from the left-hand side of me. However, as I turned my head to try and locate this noise, it was like it was hovering just near my ear, staying fixed in this position, and I could see out the corner of my eye, very close to my face, like a matrix of golden orange-like digits of a liquid crystal digital watch start to appear. I'll put up a illustration to try and explain what I saw, because it's quite hard to explain. It was like a hologram of sorts. I'm now stood on the pavement thinking, what the F is going on? Then my attention was pulled up to look into the far distance. The comet was behind the view I was looking at. It was a perfectly clear night, and amongst the glistening stars was one very bright orange golden star, or so I thought. Suddenly my stomach began to turn, and a sense of dread and fear that something was coming over me, or was coming to get me washed over me, shall I say. I tried to brush the rationality of this feeling off, but with a snap into awareness from my daydream state, and this particular sound located to the left of my head, no matter where I turned, this strange glow orange-like lattice appearing to the left of my head. To be honest, I was starting to freak out. I looked back up to the glowing star-like object and could not really distinguish if it was moving or not, so I stood next to a lamppost, using the lamppost as a guide to see if the object was moving closer to it. As I stood still, the object was indeed moving, but very slowly. I was quite anxious as to what on earth was going on. I composed myself best I could and continued to walk home. A few meters on, and then it felt like I had froze, incapable of moving. Someone then walked out from a garden from behind a hedge, and he was startled when we just stood there. I mean, I was froze. I used to do a lot of weight training, a lot of fitness. You know, my body was my temple, and somehow I was froze on the spot, and that was scary, to be honest with you. The vibration-like noise was now getting louder. The orange glowing matrix lattice, which was spreading to the left of my face, was glowing to the side of my face, and I didn't know what to say to this stranger. I mean, I just stood and looked at him and looked back at this light in the sky. I just didn't know what to say to him because I was just like so perplexed by what was going on. He looked at me, he looked up then too, and then shook his head and got in his car. I then looked at him as he looked up over his steering wheel at me, and then the sky, and then he started his car. I looked back up at the light, which just looked like a star, then suddenly, so fast, that honestly, this thing was really high up in the sky. I'm no good with distances and that, but it was really high up in the sky. I couldn't distinguish if it was a plane or a helicopter or a star even. It was just orange amber light, but it was really high up. Then all of a sudden, it shot down to above the rooftops of the houses, and it moved so fast that if you had blinked, you'd have missed it. And the only way you knew that it didn't disappear and then just reappear in a different spot miles down below is that it left a streak of light behind it. So like a straight beam of light where it just shot down so fast, it left a trail of light behind it. Sorry, excuse me. So I looked back at the dude in his car, and he just reversed the road. I mean, I don't know if he saw it. I don't know what was going on. But he just reversed at the road, and now I was petrified because it's like my only contact to reality was this dude. My only contact to I'm not alone in this situation was this dude in his car, and he just drove off. So oh goodness, I looked back up at the object, and it was above the rooftops of the houses far ahead of me, but my house was ahead of me as well to my right. So I basically thought, stuff this, and I just looked down at the floor and marched as fast as I could without running, because I thought if I had run, I'm going to fall over or something. I had a million thoughts just rushing through my head, like I wanted to knock on somebody's door and let me in my house, But I was babbling by this point. I was like saying to myself, this can't be real. This can't be real. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. This isn't real. So I was a bit of a jittery mess, to be honest with you. So I just didn't know what to do. So I thought I'd look at the floor and march forward and get to my house. And that's what I'd done. So I carried on walking, and I got to near my house, just crossing the road, and excuse me, I froze again. As I'm crossing the road, I froze again, and this time I think it was me stopping. I didn't feel like the same incapacity as what I had before, but I think it was just sheer fear. This object, I thought, it's going to be near me now. It's going to be near me to my left, I thought, because that's where it was. It was on the left-hand side of the houses in the distance. I thought if it's going to be anywhere to the left, that's what I perceived in my mind. My worst fear, I thought at the time was going to be my worst fear, was that the object was going to be above my head, because you know UFOs are part of our popular culture. There are shows like the X-Files. There've been numerous films, and there's the classic picture of a person being beamed up by a beam of light into a flying saucer, and that's what I was fearful of. But I drew the strength to look up, and as I looked up, the object wasn't to my left, and the object wasn't above my head. In a worst case situation for me and my psyche at the time is that the object was actually hovering above my house waiting for me. So it wasn't to the left anymore. It crossed the street to the right above the houses and got to my house before I had got to my house. So this object's there waiting for me. And it was about the size of a transit van in England. I'm not good with distances, I'd say about 7 meters, 5 meters, 7 meters in diameter. I can't really, I'm no good with distances, but it was a fair size. And it was hovering above the house. And I looked at it, and the only way I can describe it, I had hundreds and hundreds of shards of light shooting off of it in all directions. But what was really peculiar about these shards of light is that if you squint your eyes when you look at a light, a street light or a light in your house, like beams of light shoot off of the light, you know, like where you're squinting, and they start off bright and they get dim, dim, dimmer, 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 until they fade out naturally. You can't see the beam of light no more. All these beams of light were like shooting off in myriad directions, and they're going dim, dim, dimmer, 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 but they were stopping unnaturally, almost like there's a cloak around this object, like stopping the light going any further. And I was completely just stood there mesmerized by this, panicking as well. And another weird phenomenon on it was like, I'm going to put a picture up so you can see. I tried to do an illustration. It was like there's a dip at the bottom and a dip at the top of this object, like the light was punctured or stopped prematurely even further. It was really strange. But anyway, excuse me. I stood there transfixed by this orb of light, and the next thing I remember, and I'll never forget this was amazing. The next thing I remember is like I felt being millions of threads of light. Like the only way I can describe this is if actually you got loads of threads of light or threads of fishing line, but they're like vibrationally light going from the ceiling to the ground. I was hundreds of shards of these shreds of light, these threads of light, and on the threads of light were like diamonds, and that's the only way I can describe it. They're like vibrating diamonds, and the threads of light were moving around, and every time a thread of light would collide with another thread of light, and a diamond would collide with another diamond, these absolutely beautiful waves of euphoria would wash over me. But when I say wash over me, there was no me. I was these shards of light. I was these vibrations. I was just completely, there's no way to describe it. There was no sense in physical reality, but I started to feel physical reality because I could start to feel my feet, and then I could start to feel my knees. And the only way I can describe this is like if you're in say you're about to get into a bathtub of hot water, when you put your foot into the hot water, you clearly feel your foot going into hot water, and you feel a difference in temperature between the room temperature of your body and the body parts of your body going into the water. Well, this felt like the opposite. This beautiful sensation of the threads of light was leaving my body. It was crawling up my body. And as it was crawling up my body, I was starting to feel my physical presence. And I can remember being stood on my tiptoes as it was leaving my head, begging something, begging like a child, please don't leave me to something. And then I felt this like popping sensation, like something suckered and pulled out of my head like a little pop. And I'm stood there on my tiptoes, begging something not to leave me. And then I come back down and put my feet on the ground. And I'm stood there and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm just stood there, and I found myself stood on the pavement with this beautiful feeling of euphoria gone, but I felt really clear and really, really present. Like you hear these spiritual people talk of being like nirvana and one with the universe and everything's connected and being present. And it was just amazing feeling. It's a very clear, sharp feeling, a pleasant feeling. And I could literally feel the blades of grass moving in the breeze. I could feel the tree moving in the breeze. It's like I could feel everything. It was amazing. And I saw my heartbeat. I heard my heart go, doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. And how many people can say they hear their heartbeat regularly? But I could hear my heartbeat. And not only could I hear it, I could see it rippling around me. When my heart was beating, there's like a ripple of um, holographic, translucent golden light shimmering around my heart. That's the only way I can describe it. And I was like looking at this energy, this feeling. And I didn't know about energy back then. I was just 18. And I lifted my hands up to this ripple. And the only way to describe it is when you move your hands, say you're in a swimming pool and you move your hands underwater, you can see the motion of the water parting between your fingers and you can feel it. And that's what it was like. It was like a real tingly sensation of parting my hands through this energy. And I reached up to the ripples of my heart thinking, whoa, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, crikey, the light. The ball of light what was above my house, and my mind started to whir at thoughts. It felt like I was thinking and losing this clarity and losing this beautiful sensation, losing this presence. And then an intense sensation came from the right side of me. Like the only way I could describe it is like someone blew wind through me, actually through me. And I turned around to see where this wind sensation had come from, and there was a cat come out, and it was looking at me. A cat come out from a wall and was looking at me, and I thought, what the frig? And I looked at this cat, and as I looked at it, its eyes started to morph like oil. Like when you drop oil in water and all those colours come off the oil, it was like that, but with black added to it. It was like, I could see the cat's eyes, but I was losing the image of the cat where this vortex of energy was coming off of it. And as the vortex of energy was coming off of it, I heard this really weird, like shrilling noise, like getting louder and louder. It felt like something was squeezing my temples, like to the left and right of my head, just squeezing my head whilst I was looking at this cat with this weird noise getting louder. I remember turning away thinking, oh my God, what is that? And then I had deja vu. I could feel the nice sensation again. I could feel the tree lolling. It's like I had a rewind, like I could feel the niceness of everything again. And I thought, whoa, I just done this. And as I was doing it, I turned round and the cat came out. And I thought, I've just done this, I'm not having that happen again. So I looked away from the cat. I thought, what is going on? So I started walking to the house, which was not too far now. It's probably around 20 meters away from me, to my right. And as I just got outside of my door, my house, still on the pavement, before I got into the driveway, I had a shaved head at the time, which I generally have, and I felt like something like splat on top of my head, like someone had dropped egg yolk on my head or hair gel, and I could feel it running down the side of my head in every angle, and I could feel it going literally in my ears, and it would wrap around and go into my mouth and up my nose. I felt like I was being surrounded by this gelatine substance. That's the only way to describe it. Of course, I couldn't see it until it started wrapping around my arm. When I saw it wrapping around my arm, it was like a hologram, because it was like about a centimetre off of my body, wrapping around me, and it looked sort of translucent, but at the same time you could see it because it had like flecks of purple and green and black in it. And it was wrapping around me, and I'm trying to pull it off my arm, off my left arm with my right hand, thinking, what the is this? Is this wrapping around my other arm as well? And then I remember leaning over to be sick, because it felt like this stuff's going inside me. And I lean over to be sick, but then as I do that, as I'm gagging on this invisible holographic liquid or whatever it was, I remember just saying, I just remember going, get the F off of me. And it's like I threw someone off my back. And I'd done that motion of throwing someone off my back. And as I threw this imaginary person off my back, I'm looking up to the sky, and it's pitch black. And I mean pure black. And the sky is never pure black, especially when you're in suburbia, where you've got the street lights, like creating a sort of yellowy hue to the sky, with the blueness of the sky and the darkness of the sky. And then there's always the stars as well. And it was just pure black. So I'm looking back down after like throwing this invisible person off my back. And I can see the hue of the streetlights in the sky. I can see the stars and that. And I'm like, what? And I look back up and it's pure black again. And I look around, and my first thought was this. someone's cut a triangle hole in the sky. There was this black triangular hole in the sky, just dangling, floating in the air, wobbling ever so slightly, like it looked like a hologram. And it looked so holographic and so unreal, but it looked like if I smacked it with my hand, which I couldn't because it was I could have hit it with a stone, but not smacked it with my hand because it was a bit higher up. But if I'd hit it, it would just gone and span, like span off. It just looked so delicate. And as I'm looking at this black hole in the sky, as my brain's still registering what I'm looking at, then on each corner of the object, like if you imagine what shape a boomerang is, what Aborigines use, Australian Aborigines use a tool called a boomerang for hunting. Like on each corner of the triangle, a boomerang of light came on, like green. It was green light came on, and that's when my brain was like, "Oh f, there's something above your head. It's not a triangle hole in the sky. There's a solid object above your head." So I froze. I froze on the spot, and I used to watch films when I was a kid, and you see people getting scared, or in horror films or when someone freezes on the spot, and you think, just run, you idiot, or just punch him, you idiot, in these films. Now I understood true fear, because I couldn't move, and my mouth went bone dry from my lips down to my throat, went bone dry, and it felt like if someone had hit me with a hammer, I'd have smashed into glass. I could not move. And as I'm froze there, the lights are changing from green to red, but this is the weird thing. I couldn't see the transition. 1 minute they're red, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, they were green a minute ago, and then they're green again. But they were just red. I couldn't see the transition, and I'm thinking to myself, if I can, as I'm froze, I can't move. I'm thinking if I can catch this object out and see it change transition, I'm losing it by now. I thought if I can see it change transition, I've got some level of self-control over what's going on with me right now. And I couldn't. And as I stood there trapped underneath this object, it's like, again, back to the water. If you dropped oil in water and all the colours come off, these colours were like shimmering all down around a triangle and surrounding me. And I couldn't move, and I literally felt like I was melting. I literally felt like, not a beautiful sensation I had moments ago where I felt like I was all warm, but literally felt like I was melting into the ground and vibrating as I vibrated and humming, like I was melting into everything. But this wasn't nice. This wasn't pleasant. And then a white light came on in the middle of the object, and I was like, move. I screamed to myself internally, move, 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 move. And I snapped out of it, and I got to the front door, and this object's just dangling there above the sky, slowly moving over towards the house. And I'd say it was the size of, like, if you're familiar with England size, you take a standard English coach bus, a single-decker bus, and you take 3 of those and make a triangle out of them. That's the size of this object. And I could have hit it with a stone if I could have moved properly and picked up a stone, but that wasn't on my agenda or thought process at the time. My thought process was get in the house now. But that was the trouble. I got my keys out of my pocket, and my right hand was shaking so violently that I couldn't get the key to go into the door because my hand was shaking so violently. So quick thinking, I put my elbow on my abdomen, I put my left hand over my right hand, or my left wrist over my right wrist, and I pushed down on my left hand. I pushed down with my left hand on my right hand, and I pulled up on the other hand. So I steadied my hand that way, and I got the key in the door. And I got the key in the door, but then I couldn't even turn it. I was so feeble, my hands were shaking that bad, I couldn't even turn the key on the door. So I was desperate. I was trying everything. I was trying to use both hands to do it. I was getting down trying to do it with my teeth. It was ridiculous, but I managed to get the door open. And then I got inside, but I'm a mess. I'm a wreck. I don't feel like I'm really here. I feel like I'm vibrating. I can hear all these things. I can hear things, hear all these noises, like multiple radio stations going off in my head. It was horrible. And I'm talking to myself, this isn't real, this can't be happening. No, what do? I've got to go, right, I've got to ring down. And I thought, I looked at the phone to ring my friend whose house I come from, but I just couldn't do it. And at the same time, I wanted to go and wake my people I was living with some people at the time, and I wanted to wake them up. But I was just a mess. So I thought, stuff this, I'm not doing this. So I went into the house, and I was sat there just with all these weird sensations and not really feeling real in my body and all these sensations going on. So I went into the back garden and opened the patio doors, and I looked up, and the thing's right above the house. So I run back into the house, And I opened all the doors downstairs and the windows downstairs. And I kept poking my head out from the windows and from the doors, watching this object. It knew where I was inside the house because it would dangle above the adjacent um, door or window I was hanging out of. It'd show itself. So I sat down on the doorstep, just hoping for somebody to walk past. I wanted someone else to validate I wasn't losing my mind. And it was, like I said, it was late at night now, and no one was walking past, no cars or nothing. And it was quite quiet back then. It was a little country town. And this white light appeared in front of me, and it shimmered, and it said, "This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. They don't want to take you; they want you to go with them." And I thought, whoa, that's true. Like, because in pop culture, you hear if you've been abducted. Well, was this an abduction? I'm sat here underneath this thing. I've got some level of self-control. I warranted I didn't have that moments ago, but I wasn't thinking about moments ago. I was not even thinking. I was all over the place. But I thought, yeah, okay. So I propped the door open with some trainers. So I thought I'm not reopening the door again in case I chicken out. And I walked out in the street, and I'm walking down the street, and this thing's I got a sensation, this impulse. It's like some people speak of telepathy, but it wanted me to go around the back of the houses into the playing field, into the park area, recreational area. So I started walking down the street a bit, and this thing's just it was like taking a dog for a walk. It was just following me in the sky as I was walking down the street. And I got to near the recreational area, but it was pure black into the recreational area. There's no streetlights or anything, and I just bottled it. So I ran back to the house, got into the house, sat back down on the doorstep, watched it come back to the house, sat there for I don't know how long. I didn't even feel real. I lost my senses were shot, and I'm watching this object just above the house, and then it flew away, very low. It's like just above the house, the rooftops of the houses. But when it flew away, that's when I noticed it was a three-dimensional object because I'd only witnessed it really from below. And when I was walking away from it, it's slightly behind me. I was still quite underneath it, and it was so black I couldn't see any three-dimensional element to it. But when it flew away, there were two lights shining at the back of it. You couldn't see these lights from below, but as it flew away, you could see the lights shining at the back of it, showing the size of it. And I'd say from the light I could see, because it could have been even taller, but from the light I could see it was about the size of a single-decker coach as well in height. So anyway, it flew off, and I locked up for a bit. I locked up the house and that, and I went upstairs. My I got onto my bed, and it hadn't ended because all these things, these sensations, these voices, this what people call disassociation was in the medical field was going on. It's horrible, and so I'm in bed and I can hear all these things. Like it's almost like there's a voice trying to talk to me amongst all this chaos going on, and I'm sat on my bed, and then a green light. I got the curtains closed, and a green light comes through the window, even though the curtains are closed, and shines on the wall to my behind me. So I get up, and I put my duvet on the curtains, and prop it up on the curtains at the top on the curtain rail to stop the light coming through. And it comes through, and I'm sat in my bedroom, knees in my chest. Like I'm not ashamed to say it, but I was sort of like rocking backwards and forwards, saying, "This isn't happening. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. This has got to stop. This isn't real." Whilst all these things are going on, and then now keep in mind the windows in front of me. I've got a wall behind me, a wall to the left of me, which is to the neighbour's house, and then a wall to the right of me with the door going out to the hallway in the bathroom. And from the neighbour's side of the house, a solid beam of light shines through the solid wall from that side onto the other wall to my right. So from the left to the right, a beam of light shines through a solid wall. If I had any semblance of sanity left, I was losing it now, because how does a beam of light shine through a solid wall? So I'm telling myself this is just glow in the dark paint, that isn't a real light. So I'm spitting on my hands to rub this light off of the wall. I'm losing it. And so it's not coming off the wall. So I get back onto the bed and I close my eyes, and this is when things got even worse. I closed my eyes, and because I started seeing like orbs and things moving around in my vision, all these colours and patterns and stuff. So I opened my eyes, and the only way to describe it, and it sounds so cliche, I know, I'm sorry, but I started to see something manifest in the bedroom, a figure. Now it didn't look like Predator in terms of like the mask and dreadlocks and that. It was probably around 4.5 to 5 foot tall, but this translucent entity started appearing in the bedroom, and I was like, no, fuck. It was truth language. I was like, no way. No, I'm not having that. So I just closed my eyes, clenching my knees. I'm closing my eyes, and I could see all these things moving around. I'm too scared to open my eyes to see what's there in front of me. I don't want to keep them closed. So I'm seeing all these things moving around, and there's one singular point of white light in the distance amongst all this chaos of images and like screens moving around. It's the only way, well, when we screens, like there's blobs and screens of light and patterns moving around in every conceivable direction, but there's one stationary point of white light, and it moved down. It'd go down a sequence and then send out a pulsing wave. It'd go down a sequence, send out a pulsing wave. It'd move to the left a sequence, send out a pulsing wave. And every time it made a movement down, it was getting closer and closer to me. And these pulsing waves sent out a wave of like soothing energy, but again, it didn't feel right. And I noticed like a woman, no, two women. There's like two women energies, like white being things, so one to the left and one to the right of me. They're trying to calm me down and tell me if it was going to be all right. And this white light would get closer and closer until I felt it going to my left eye, and I'd start going into a trance, and I'd get all these drowning sensations of like, I don't know, just feelings. And people call it today energy. I don't know what to call it. It was just crazy. And I thought, because these two women things were telling me to calm down, in a really nice voice, so really reassuring. But I felt like I was floating, felt like I was moving somewhere. And I was like, no, I can't do it, I can't do it. And I pulled out. I just got a shooting pain then even talking about it. So anyway, I get shooting pain since it happened. But anyway, excuse me, give me a moment. So as I pull out of this trance, it's like I pulled out of my body. And the only way I can describe it is like I woke up out of this trance. And I'm walking across the bedroom, climbing out the window to get onto the balcony. And also the flat roof of the extension, should I say. It wasn't really a balcony of sorts. But as I pull out of this trance, it's like I could see myself pull out of myself, like my physical body was pulling out of like a ghost body of myself. And that tear, that pulling out of my energy body and my physical body created the sensations of pain shooting down the left side of my body, along with all the symptoms of dissociation and things I could hear and things I could feel come flooding in like tenfold, even worse. So I got back onto my bed, and I noticed this thing moving behind my left eye, this vibration, this little trancey weird movement sensation, and I figured out that it was this something to do obviously what was going on, this object, this experience. Oh, and that's what I forgot to add. As I was climbing out the window, the triangle was above the back garden again. So I like got back in the house, in the bedroom, and I just basically played cat and mouse with this object. When I started going into the trance and that, I would stay conscious this time though, but let the trance carry on. I mean, my eyes weren't trancing, but I could feel this thing moving behind my left eye. And I'd go out onto the balcony and I'd call this object. I wouldn't call it with my mouth. I'd call it by saying, "Come on then, come and get me," in my head. And as I looked up, there was a red light very far away in the distance to the right, a red light very far away in the distance to the left. I could see another red light very far away in the distance to the far left. I couldn't see if there was a fourth red light because the house was blocking my view. But there was basically, I could see three red lights and a point of white light going between all these lights. And it would disappear going behind the house. So I presumed that there was another red light and it was like flying in between all these other red lights, like they were scout craft, and it was flying between a different scout craft. And it would break off of the flight path, and I'd call it, and it'd come back, and I'd see the triangle coming towards me, and I'd get back in the bedroom. Like, I don't want to call myself a coward, but I did. Got back in the bedroom, and it started. I kept doing this for ages, and then it started getting like daylight-ish because it was summertime, and then all the red lights disappeared. They just disappeared. They didn't fly off like zip off. They all just disappeared. And I got back into my bedroom, and I was in an absolute state, and I managed to get some sleep, but it was a very strange state. Like, I don't know if I was asleep or awake. It was just like being in between two states. And I woke up I got the next day, and when I lifted my hands up to my face to like go, oh, because like I was still feeling all these sensations, I was like wanting to put my hands on my face to go, oh, what's going on? And if you lift your hands up, most people, they go in synchronicity, like both hands go to your face together. When I lifted my hands up to my face, my left hand was about a second or two behind my right hand. So when my right hand had touched my head, My left hand hadn't touched it yet. My left side of my body was completely out of sync. I couldn't walk properly with it. It was all gone. And for somebody whose body was their temple and they used to do a lot of weight training and fitness and stuff, to actually lose the sync of your body, it was crazy. It was horrible. So that was the first major close encounter. And just to add to it as well, like, it kept coming back. I was losing the plot. I was going crazy because it kept coming back. And fortunately, all I'll say on this instant is that one other friend saw it with me when it came back, because I knew it was going to come back because the trance would start kicking in. So one night, I had a friend round, at the time, when I was watching a film, and I was watching a really childish film because everything was triggering the thoughts. And what was even worse is at the time around it was happening, that there's a cult called the Heaven's Gate cult in America who believed that they were in contact with aliens and committed suicide. And that just blew my mind, because, like, what's going on with me? It was just too much. But so I was just watching a really childish film with my friend, and he knew something was wrong, because I went from being a headstrong individual to a timid, scared to go out person. Who was scared, like I always say to people, I was too scared to keep my eyes open for what I would see. I was too scared to close them. And when the trance started kicking in, we got out. It was still it wasn't daylight. It was it was just in between daylight and nighttime, about dusk. That sort of like purpley hue to the sky. We got onto the extension of the roof. We were sat down. Like, he goes, "What are we doing out here?" And I go, "Let's have a cigarette." He goes, "You don't smoke?" I said, "Give me a cigarette." So he reluctantly gave me a cigarette as he lit one, and I knew it was coming. I said, "Look over there." And he goes, "What?" I go, "Look at that light." And he goes, "It's a plane." I go, "It's not a plane. Just keep looking." And I was too scared to look up, but I was looking at him and looking at the floor and looking at him, looking at the floor, and I just watched his jaw drop and his cigarette drop out of his hand, and then sort of go, "What the F is that?" And I looked up and I go, "I don't know." And it was like I said, it was dusk, and this object was like translucent. Now it wasn't solid black; it was translucent, like glass. You could see the lights on each corner, which were glowing white, like the boomerang lights glowing white. And I just said to him, "I don't know what that is, but it keeps coming back." And I got to be honest, if it wasn't for him witnessing that, I don't think I'd be here to this day, because I was losing it big time. And at least he validated that I wasn't going completely crazy. Other people saw it around the town. Other people reported it. I know other people had experienced it. Unfortunately, two individuals who witnessed it, not saying it's related, but they're no longer with us, and they're young men as well. They're both quite traumatized by their experiences, regrettably, and may they rest in peace. But I'm still here, and I'm trying to make sense of it still to this day by studying everything and reading and meditating and that. But no, I go through a severe experiences still to this day in some form. And there is a paranormal element to all this, I believe, whether it's mind control, telepathy, or paranormal. I haven't got the answers, but there's definitely something going on in this phenomena. And I'm going to leave that out there, and hopefully update with some more of my experiences in another video.